This video is brought to you by Nebula Classes. Hi everybody, welcome to Amy Nolte Music. Today I'm talking about Keith Jarrett, who is probably my biggest piano influence, I would say. I want to talk about what maybe is my favorite Keith Jarrett album. It's close anyway. Standards In Norway. When Keith Jarrett had the idea to start the Standards albums, it was based off of the idea that there are these songs that are our repertoire in jazz that everybody knows, that everybody's done a bazillion ways, and that because he found Jack DeJohnette and Gary Peacock, and they were just stellar musicians, the three of them could go in to any recording studio or any stage and perform standards without having to arrange them. Sometimes people think that they're arranged. They're not. Listen to Keith Jarrett talk to Marian McPartland about it in his NPR interview on Piano Jazz.
Well, back in that era, which would have been the early 80s, everybody was expected to do their own thing. And their own,
right, of course.
So, you get a record contract if you have material that is yours. And it was so passé to do standards that for me, I realized there was this wide open space that no one was occupying, that I thought anybody with as much experience as Gary and Jack DeJohnette could probably just use. And then we wouldn't have to say, this is our music, we're doing our thing. And there wouldn't be that possessiveness that comes from rehearsing. And what I wanted was us to just show up and play and have the playing, which anyway is what jazz is supposed to be about, like the actual involvement and the expression of each individual player. When we did our first recording, you might remember God Bless the Child is on there. I remember a review saying that they liked the arrangements. And I remember looking at Gary and Jack and saying, do you remember us having any arrangements?
Let's start with the opening track, All of You. As Keith Jarrett takes his solo, he opens up with a motif that knocks my socks off. Let's listen to it. Did you recognize it? It's a quote. I mean, it came from a song. I think it's My Melancholy Baby. He doesn't stay on it or make you know that it's My Melancholy Baby. He morphs it into something else immediately. It becomes this beautiful motif that he sees through to the end. He exhausts it and then moves on to something else. In Keith's interview with Marian McPartland, he talks about motifs, and, well, I'll just let him tell you.
And the part of me that can't help itself is the melodic content part. So I don't have to think, let me add some melody to it. It always seems to... Well, if I find a motif finds me instead of me finding a motif. So.
When he starts his second chorus, he does a thing that Keith Jarrett does. It's that he lands on this beautiful idea, some idea that it almost anchors you as the beginning of a new chorus starts. Almost at the top of every chorus, he has some really solid idea, some very, very strong motif. And as he plays along, you probably know this about Keith Jarrett, we start to really hear him squeal. In the interview with Marian McPartland, he also addresses this squealing. She's brave to ask him about it, but she does, and he explains it the best way that he can, and I love it.
You are funny. I've never figured out, is all that little noise, is that kind of ecstasy, or what is that? It makes me laugh to hear it. There's not enough
space for the input and output at the same time. And that's the only explanation I can come up with. There's stuff going through me and stuff coming out on the piano, but it isn't everything there is. So some of it is only going on in my head, and I'm following both trains at the same time. And but it's also ecstatic because the perfect example is the first encore at the Carnegie Hall recording. The first encore is called an encore, but because it happened after the body of the concert, and I went off stage and came back and bowed a couple times, came back, and I sat at the piano, and I remember saying to myself, it's not yet time to lower my resistance and just drop some encores onto everyone. It's time, there's still something to do. So it was, to me, the body of the concert was still going on. So it's a completely improvised piece, but there was such longing in one part of it that I could never get the sound I heard in my head out of a piano. And you hear me pause and you'll hear me make a sound. And that is one place I can precisely describe why that sound existed. It was when you reach for something and you go, oh, and you
oh, no kidding.
You know you're not going to necessarily get there in all respects. I was doing everything I could on the keyboard, but there was even more than I could possibly have presented on piano. And that's usually the reason that the sound.
I'm trying to.
Here's the clip from Carnegie Hall. The track is called The Good America. It has a title, even though it was an encore. He improvised it and then titled it later. The idea that there's something out there that he heard going on in his head, but he just couldn't quite execute because he only has 2 hands and 88 keys, so he has to make some sound. I think is really, really amazing. And I like that way of his explaining it. Sometimes it seems like he's singing along with what he's playing, but sometimes it does seem like he's just reaching for a bigger sound than the piano can make. How About You is a solo that I transcribed when I was in college, maybe one of the first solos I ever transcribed. Again, he starts off with an amazing motif. It's actually the Tonight Show theme song. Since I transcribed this, I have some footage of myself playing it that I'll show here and there as I talk about this tune. As he starts the second chorus, bang, it's with another very strong idea, strong motif. As he really gets into it here, you can hear him squealing again, and it's like you can feel the squeal and the lack of squeal within him somehow. Like he really wants something to come out, but he's gonna hold back a little bit. There's like this lack of what he's trying to bring, this holding back all through it that I just love. It's like he's giving us a taste of something, but still holding out on us. There's so many great bebop lines, and even in a tricky place in this tune where you don't expect it to, but the chord goes to C minor, he gets out of the bebop line preceding the C minor in a way that sets up C minor perfectly. I love this part. A lot of my bebop vocabulary, my early bebop vocabulary, came from this transcription. It's really quite a study in the vocabulary of triplets, of enclosures, of little arpeggios that outline chords, lines, the way to outline the chord changes. Listen close. These are some of my favorite parts. At the end of this tune, he trades eights with the drummer, Jack DeJohnette. And I think it's so cool that when Keith Jarrett goes to trade eighths, you can't tell at the beginning that he's about to trade eights. You think that he's going to take another chorus. It's like his mood doesn't change. He just continues. He takes his 8 bars. Waits for Jack DeJohnette to take his 8 bars. A simple killer motif. Every time he comes back in for his 8, he's not trying to keep up with the drummer. He's not trying to be rhythmically flashy. He's just playing the ideas that are inside of himself. He's doing his thing. He's letting Jack do his thing. And then all of a sudden it's time to end the tune, and it just ends. There is no tag. There is no outro. It just ends, and it's kind of abrupt, and I think it's kind of telling about Keith Jarrett's confidence. He's a very confident man from what I can tell. And I think he thought he already brought everything that he needed to the song. Love is a Mini Splendored thing. It's another tune that I've transcribed, and I absolutely love his solo on it. He starts by, he plays the head in, and then when he starts his solo, it's kind of like he's playing the head in again, but a second time, and he's embellishing the melody. It's like one of the coolest melodies embellished that I've ever heard. He has a way of always bringing you back to the melody, but really stepping outside of it and then coming right back to it. That it's a masterclass on how to embellish a melody. Sounds like a solo. But that was the melody. Goes away again, but about to come back to the melody. And keeps going, more melody. His ideas throughout his solo are so soaring and beautiful. Again, just a pro showing us bebop vocabulary, but lyricism in a way nobody else can do it. Lyricism. It's like sometimes his solos are so strong, I feel like I could write lyrics to them if I wanted to. I could totally write lyrics to that line. You could too. We all could. I have a quote that is in this notebook of mine where I did the transcription. In the back of the notebook, I wrote down a quote from Keith Jarrett. I assume that it's from Downbeat magazine in 1970. I'm not exactly sure, but I love this quote. I think that people have forgotten the importance of lyricism. It is here that music began, and here where it will end. Music is melody. Certain musicians have no sense of melody in themselves, and I think this is a major defect, for one can learn everything except lyricism. It's probably why he's my favorite. Let's talk about another tune, I Hear a Rhapsody. The beginning is a rubato piano solo. He sets it up all by himself. It's very, very intricate, very, very technical, very, very beautiful. And sometimes if you think, if you listen to something like this, or maybe like Art Tatum or Oscar Peterson being extra flashy, having extra crazy sense of harmony, and you think that it's so far beyond you, I just want you to know that there's so much good can come from listening and listening and listening to a section of a song like this. Just listening to Keith Jarrett open up this song all by himself, playing everything that comes through him will do more for your playing than you know, just absorbing it. These reasons and many more reasons are why I love Keith Jarrett and why he blows my friggin' mind. You'll notice I talked a lot again today about motifs, and also a couple videos ago I talked all about motifs and about how soloing isn't what you think it is, it's actually easier. Keith Jarrett illustrates my point again because of the strong ideas that he has and executes and sees through. It sometimes exhausts, but always knows how to lead himself into the next thing. And it's exactly what my new Nebula class talks about. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Nebula class. I'm Amy Nolte. I'm a jazz piano player and singer. But I want you to know right up front, you don't have to be a piano player or a singer to get everything you need out of this class. It's for all instruments. Nebula brought me out to New York recently, and I shot my very own Nebula class. It was professionally produced. I didn't have a thing to do with the cameras or lighting, and that's why it looks so dang good. And what I do in that class is to give you the tools that you need in order to create your own motifs that come straight from the heart. There's 13 different ways that I have, very practical ways, so that you can just start doing it immediately and playing things that just flow naturally out of you. I try to help you find the things that are in you that are just waiting to be unlocked and brought out through your instrument. It doesn't have to be a keyboard necessarily. Nebula Classes is the latest thing from my streaming service, Nebula, that I've built with 160 other YouTube creators. Nebula is a place where we can share our videos without the fear of an algorithm or anything being liked or disliked or comments underneath it. It's all educational content. Sometimes I drop bonus videos over there, companion videos, extended pieces to what I make here on YouTube. And if I ever think that a video wouldn't work on YouTube because of that dang algorithm, I put it on Nebula. Just like my Brian Wilson documentary about Surf's Up, which happens to be my favorite Beach Boys tune. And new classes are dropping every single week, like Sarah Feldman's class, which is already up about how to produce a pop song. You can get Nebula Classes right now if you sign up using the code on your screen, nebulaclasses.com/Amy Nolte. It's $10 a month or $100 for the year. And right now with my code, there's $2 off of that price, so $8 per month or $80 per year. If you're already signed up for Nebula, it's just $5 extra to add on Nebula Classes. You'll get all of Nebula plus Nebula Classes every time you open the app. The app, which can be viewed on your iOS or Android device, or on Fire Stick, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, any of the devices that you use to watch TV on your TV. Check out my friend Devin Stone. He's Legal Eagle. He has a brand new Nebula class all about copyright for fun and for profit. There's a great section about fair use that I have learned a lot from. Thanks for listening to me fangirl about Keith Jarrett, my favorite piano player. Go ahead and listen to everything you can by Keith Jarrett. Don't just stop with this video. Go listen to the Standards in Norway album. Listen to Live at the Deerhead Inn. Listen to that Carnegie Hall concert. Listen to everything you can get your hands on. It'll make you a better player. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time on Amy Nolte Music.